interest rate to tackle inflation. Code of Conduct Bureau wants political and public office holders to be law-abiding in assets declaration. Senate meets NIMASA Labor Management insists on workers' welfare. Gombe State Governor advocates creation of state police to address current security issues across Nigeria. In a bid to sustain efforts towards reducing inflation in the country, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has increased monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 26.25%. Musa Abubakar reports that this was the position of the CBN Monetary Policy Committee at the end of its 295th meeting in Abuja.
This is the third time the Monetary Policy Committee members are meeting this year. On the committee's priority list is to review recent financial and economic developments and assess risk to outlook with the aim to achieve price stability through their next line of action. Members observed that while year-on-year headline inflation in April 2024 rose moderately, the month-on-month measures of headline, food and core inflation all decline.
There is light at the end of the tunnel, and that is because much as we see an increase in inflation, in the inflationary figures, when you go down to the specifics in terms of food, in terms of core, in terms of headline inflation, you see that it is moderating and decelerating. MPC urged that more be done to address the security of farming communities to guarantee improved food production in these areas.
With the marginal increase in the external reserve balance between March and April 2024, members urge banks to sustain focus on accretion to reserves. They attribute the recent volatility in the foreign exchange market to seasonal demand, a reflection, they say, of the interplay between demand and supply in a freely functional market system.
With respect to recapitalization, of course, we're looking forward and saying that we need the banking industry to be a lot stronger and more robust, particularly considering the $1 trillion economy that the federal government is anchored itself towards. We have gotten much of the feedback from the banks with respect to what their plans are.
They believe that the decision to increase from 24.75 to 26.25% is on the right track to reduce inflation, with liquidity ratio at 30%. Cash reserve ratio at 45% and asymmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 300 basis points. In Abuja, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
Still talking demand and supply, multiple taxes threaten gains of manufacturers in NFCFTA as NNPC says oil production nears 1.7 million barrels per day. Let's now join Vivian Defe for more. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has warned that the impact of multiplicity of taxes imposed on the manufacturing sector in the country may hinder the sector from maximizing the potential gains in the African Continental Free Trade Area. Director General of MAN said this in a paper he presented at the just concluded annual tax conference of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria in Abuja. According to him, taxes from federal, states and local governments impact manufacturing, hindering the development and competitiveness of the sector. He noted that a survey conducted by MAN in 2023 reveals numerous taxes with overlapping effects that add complexity and burden to businesses. In his remarks, Coordinating Director, Federal Inland Revenue Service, said there are ongoing moves to simplify the tax laws in the country to ensure easy compliance. According to him, the Presidential Tax Reforms Committee was specifically established to rewrite and simplify the tax laws, adding that efforts were ongoing to produce a new law for the entire tax system. In another development, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says Nigerians' oil production was inching towards 1.7 million barrels per day from 1.28 million barrels per day in April. This is as the NNPCL boss hinted that critical gas infrastructure projects are ongoing to ensure the transport of 8 billion stock of gas daily through an extensive pipeline network within the next 4 years. He said this during a stakeholders engagement meeting between the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists and the NNPCL in Lagos. According to him, the nation's crude oil production keeps dropping due to the oil theft and vandalism. The NNPCL boss emphasized the need to fight insecurity in the oil and gas sector to increase production. Due to pipeline vandalism, he said everyone resorted to barging, with some spending $21 to transport a barrel of oil to the terminals. He argued that barging and the trucking of petroleum products did not happen in the 1990s, noting that the AKK pipeline is a key element in the discussion about developing the infrastructure needed to ensure gas supply. He emphasized that the only remaining tax to connect the east and the west is a 2.7 km river crossing. With business, Vivian Ezadifi. Gombe State Governor Mohammed Yahya has promised to consolidate on human capital development by investing in healthcare, quality education, job creation, and skills development. The governor was speaking to State House correspondents after an audience with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa. He also put the proposal of the creation of state police, which he said will address the current security issues across the country.
When the bill or law passes through the National Assembly, it will have easy passage through the states and very soon. Because inadvertently, it is the states that are managing security now. Because you find that every state has its own arm of security that is supporting the security agencies in order to. And even though it is said that the governors are the chief security officers, the men on the command on the ground, meaning the either GOC or police commissioner or any IG posted to the zone, is only responsible to his commander here in Abuja. So before action is taken, it takes time.
He notes that at the last Northeast Governors meeting held in Bauchi, the governors agreed to provide 10 megawatts of solar power.
And all the governors are amenable to working with the new Electricity Act, knowing that so far, one leg has not been able to deliver us. Whatever we had before was not able to take us out of this situation. And I think the approach now is better. So we hope to overcome it. As I'm talking to you now, it's almost 4 weeks that Gombe had no electricity power because of vandals that attack the transmission line. Ordinarily, it should not be so. We should have so many arms of the transmission company reaching to our place. But we have been shortchanged because of so many policies of the past. But now we'll take advantage of liberalization as brought by Mr. President.
The Code of Conduct Bureau is engaging political and public office holders on the need to comply with the provisions of the law and declare their assets while in office. Aliyu Tijani reports that this was part of the nationwide sensitization by the Bureau to Nasarawa State.
The workshop is organized by the Code of Conduct Bureau and Nasarawa State Government in a bid to create awareness on rudiment of asset declaration. Governor Abdullahi Sule says the responsibility of the Code of Conduct Bureau in enhancing the fight against corruption and ensuring prudence and accountability cannot be overemphasized, hence his administration's commitment to promote it.
That the outcome of this workshop will further guide our political and public office holders to comply with Access Declaration. Let me charge our resource persons to do justice to their presentations. I also charge the participants to participate actively in order to tap from the wealth of experiences of our resource persons.
Acting Chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, Murtala Aliyu Kankia, tasked government officials to shun corruption practices. The acting chairman of the Code of Conduct notes that the Bureau has also carried out some reforms to further strengthen the activities of the organization, thereby urging public officers in Nasarawa State to key in by adhering to the provision of the Code of Conduct.
Since we realize that Asset Declaration does not stand alone in the fight against corruption, the verification of what is declared is of a very high significance.
The two-day workshop features papers on Code of Conduct Act and Code of Conduct Ethics in Government Businesses for Public Officers, Asset Declaration, a tool in the fight against corruption. In Lafia, Aliu Tijani, NTA News.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is hosting member countries of the IGAD Regional Economic Community on a one-week learning experience on the successes of managing free movement of the persons as well as security of the region. This regional collaboration and cooperation, which was declared open by ECOWAS Vice President in Abuja, was the first time such was happening. The high-level meeting with focus on migration underscores the significance of the core objectives of IGAD, which is around the goal of fostering bond and security of African ideals, while leveraging adopting the protocol on the free movement of persons, regimes, and creating opportunities for disadvantaged member states.
To promote collaboration between regional economic institutions and to make sure that we all achieve our objectives, which is to bring about better region for our populations.
South-South cooperation means Africans learning from each other. In this instance, ECOWAS has a long-standing tradition of managing a free movement regime, which the rest of the continent is inspired by and wishes to learn from.
This study tour of IGAD in ECOWAS is one of a successful one.
The key pillars that we shall be discussing and learning from ECOWAS on are: one, the free movement of persons with regard to the right of entry and exit.
The EU is a pioneer in free movement, being itself a free movement of a zone of free movement of people and a zone of free movement of capital and services for all these years.
The knowledge-sharing platform also intends to look into the present realities of insecurity and economic challenges occasioned by climate change, as both regional blocs will also fashion out ways for sustainable partnerships in the spirit of African brotherhood, integration, and development. The goal is being supported by the AU, European Union, among other development partners, working to ensure the realization of a shared vision of peace and prosperity of Africa. IGAD member countries include Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Somalia, Uganda, Djibouti, and Sudan. The 2024 second extraordinary session of the 6th legislature of the ECOWAS Parliament gets underway in Kano, focusing on regional integration and security. ECOWAS Parliament correspondent Mohammed Rabiu Ali reports that at the opening session, Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf calls for an agenda that will translate to regional security and economic prosperity in the region.
This is the first time the second extraordinary session of the 6th legislature of ECOWAS Parliament is sitting outside Abuja. Parliamentarians agree the task ahead of the 6th legislature is enormous. Challenges around security, climate change, and common currency are on the table. Acting Speaker, who doubles as Deputy President of the Nigeria Senate, Barau Jibrin, agrees that A united and stronger democracy of West Africa can only prosper in the region with the respect for human rights and rule of law.
I will, in consultation with my colleagues on the Bureau, be proposing the appointment of an ad hoc mediation committees whose mandate will be to work within all stakeholders in getting our brothers to rescind their decision and come home and work towards promoting dialogue with a view to resolving conflicts in the region.
The regional integration will no doubt create new opportunities for economic diversification.
We are hoping that the discussion at this extraordinary session will go beyond adopting your rule of procedures and other plans on guiding the businesses of the legislature.
During the session, a senator from Nigeria, Alain Dume, was sworn in as member of the CIS Parliament. A new speaker of ECOWAS Parliament from Togo is expected to emerge at the CIS session. From Kano, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
This is the news at 10 on NTA News 24. We have more reports after the break.
What is fake news? A false information with no verifiable source presented as true story on media platforms with the sole intention of causing injuries, chaos, and disaffection between persons, groups, or countries. Fake news facilitates extremism. Fake news creates panic and distrust. Fake news breeds hatred. Fake news kills. Don't joke with it. Don't be in a rush. Verify your sources and facts. It is better late than fake. This message is brought to you by NTA News 24.
Glad to have you back. The Senate Committee on Employment, Labour and Productivity has cautioned concerned government establishments that are yet to comply with the Employee Compensation Act with utmost dispatch. The committee gave the warning when it met with the management of maritime labour and cabotage services. Ignatius Onkwo reports.
Maritime Labour and Cabotage Services is an agency under Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NIMASA. The administration and regulation of maritime labour in Nigeria falls under its purview. Jubril Abba is the new executive director. He appeared before the Senate Committee on Employment, Labour and Productivity to brief it on the state of Nigeria's maritime workforce, especially as regards local content.
The department also enforces cabotage regulations to ensure that foreign seafarers are replaced with qualified Nigerians for those willing to participate in the cabotage trade.
Is on the desire that Nigeria moves. All is with the sincere desire that there's progression in your job. All is the desire to provide with legislation that will help you work better. 2024, and we're talking of 1961, definitely there must be ways that we will have to take a look at some of these laws. Okay? Some of them may not be relevant as it is today. Some of them we may need to amend them.
His presentation was comprehensive as described by the Senate Committee, but the welfare of workers in the sector and the significance of employees' enrollment in the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund is of concern to the Parliamentary Committee.
If you have subscribed to the NSITF, which is a requirement of law,
is when they come to register with us, we actually ensure that any dock worker that they employ is covered by that scheme.
This engagement is the takeoff of parliamentary intervention towards enhancing employees' protection in Nigeria's maritime sector. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Onkwo, NTA News.
The House of Representatives says enhancing effective oversight of national security and intelligence sector in Nigeria requires specialized training with advanced communication technology and multifaceted approach in achieving a safe and secured nation. This was the focus of an interagency workshop convened by the House of Representatives Committee on National Security and Intelligence. National Assembly correspondent Joshua Ogunjide reports.
The discussion here is timely and pertinent in addressing security issues affecting the nation. Stakeholders highlighted funding, lack of transparency and expertise as principal threats to national security alongside the economy.
Certainly this workshop would not have come at a better time, considering the current drive by Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief to set the nation on a renewed progressive trajectory.
We strive to strengthen our nation's security and intelligence apparatus. Let it be known that we recognize the crucial role that effective legislative oversight plays in ensuring accountability, transparency, and good governance.
I humbly request the Honourable Speaker to consider expediting, and honourable members as well, expediting the passage of the Money Laundering Prevention Amendment Bill and the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Bill, which will provide additional measures to ensure that terrorists, money launderers, and other criminals cannot exploit our financial system.
The kind of assignment we are doing now is one of the ways in enhancing expertise, capacity, and giving information to people who need them.
Declaring the workshop open, Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, represented by the Deputy Majority Leader, maintained that effective oversight is fundamental in building accountability and trust in the security sector.
Effective legislative oversight of the national security and intelligence sector requires a concerted effort to bridge the gap, technical competence among legislators, understand the intricacies of security agency operations, address existing challenges through proactive measures, and seize opportunities to strengthen oversight mechanisms for safeguarding national interest.
In the coming days, the committee pursuant to its mandate of oversighting all matters relating to any organization or agency established by law for ensuring the security of the Federation.
The dialogue further deliberated on organized crimes, drugs, proliferation of light weapons, smuggling, cybersecurity threats, and terrorism financing. In Abuja, Joshua Guchiri, NT News.
And for effective and efficient administrative management in line with best global practices, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies is engaging national and state assemblies, legal officers and drafters in a 3-day capacity building. National Assembly correspondent Issa Mohammed reports.
The training is to equip participants with more knowledge on effective management and administrative structure for efficient and effective service delivery. Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, advised participants to take advantage of the training for skills development that will be impactful in supporting the legislature.
The workshop is aimed at equipping you with necessary knowledge, skills, and experience that will support effective and efficient running of the legislature at both national and subnational levels. I want to implore every one of you to please actively participate in the various sessions, as well as share your ideas and perspectives on critical issues that affect your day-to-day functions in the legislature.
The workshop also availed the legislative personnel from various states the opportunity to share experience. In Abuja, Issa Muhammad, NTA News.
The House of Representatives has passed a resolution seeking the exemption of members of the armed forces from toll gate and parking fees in airports and other transportation hubs across Nigeria. The House at Tuesday's plenary also received from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu the 2024 statutory budget proposal of the Niger Delta Development Commission for consideration and approval. National Assembly correspondent Mita Rekben reports.
Cognizant of the Federal Executive Council's decision compelling VIPs to pay airport access and parking fees, lawmakers are of the view that military personnel should be exempted from implementation across transportation hubs.
Direct the Minister of Aviation to mandate the relevant authorities to exempt members of the armed forces from toll gate fees, parking payments in airports across the country.
Members of the armed forces should be given priority on boarding. I think it is a practice I know that is applicable in some developed countries like America.
The House also expressed expressed concern over poor radar and radio communications equipment at the nation's airports.
The House is worried that the abysmal state of radio and detection radar, otherwise called radar system, which present a disaster awaiting to happen, often happens and fail at critical time when the need arises.
Lawmakers received President Tinubu's request for expeditious consideration and approval of the 2024 statutory budget proposal of the Niger Delta Development Commission. The Nigeria Police Act Amendment Bill 2024 scaled second reading.
To review the service year of police personnel in order to improve the experience and expertise of the police force.
Meanwhile, incessant banditry attacks on communities in Yagba axis of Kogi West Senatorial District was condemned by the Green Chamber with a call on the security forces to flush out the criminal elements.
Urge the Chief of Defence Staff and Inspector General of Police to identify and profile each individual living in obscurity within the forest of Yagba Federal Constituency, a lot of whom are non-Nigerian for security purposes. 3. Further urge the Inspector General of Police to carry out a comprehensive mop-up of all arms, ammunition, AK-47, cutlasses, and other weapons in their possession, in the possession of the others and individuals within the constituency.
Lawmakers also passed for second reading the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act Amendment Bill seeking to remove spouse from the list of persons required to declare their assets. From the National Assembly, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Another break beckons. See you soon at the other side. Welcome back. A strategic catchment plan, management plan that is, comprising the delineation of the entire northern Nigeria into 20 mega catchment areas has been launched by the federal government. The plan is believed will induce knowledge-based infrastructure and investment capable of restoring the livelihoods of people within watershed areas in rural communities through data and statistical evidence. Charles Alpha reports.
At the core of environmental issues is water, an essential element for food production and a means of daily survival for man, plants, and animals. While some communities are blessed with this natural resource, others are not so lucky. This means to restore enhanced farming activities and boost comparative advantage across communities, there is need to deliver 20 strategic catchment management plans across states in the north suffering from land degradation. This is why this signing of contract between the federal government through the Environment Ministry and a private firm to deliver data required for investment in watershed areas in the north is essential.
What we are witnessing today is one of the hallmarks of President Tinubu's administration's love for the restoration of nature and its attendant ecosystem.
What the World Bank investment speaks to the strategic catchment is define localities where watershed passes. Identify what are the major comparative advantage of what you should invest there.
Study is not going to only be based on the technical, physical attributes of these catchments, but also the human attributes.
We know that the north is very, very important with respect to food production in Nigeria. So I will just urge all of us to continue to work very hard.
The agreement signing ceremony is pursuant to the realization of the World Bank's Acrisol projects. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
The federal government is passionate about revamping the extractive industry towards the socio-economic development of the nation. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, stated this while inaugurating the National Stakeholders Working Group, which serves as the board of NATI. Kenneth Nanim reports.
Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, NATI, no doubt is critical and strategic to stimulating economic growth and development of the nation, and the current administration is taking advantage of data provided by the sector for economic planning.
Transparency and accountability in the management of our national resources is equally central to the anti-corruption agenda of this government. Nigeria is therefore irrevocably committed to the implementation of AET. Over the years, AET has demonstrated a high degree of competence, integrity, and commitment to the values that the country requires to achieve economic growth.
With the inauguration of the governing board, NAET's activities are expected to be free from unnecessary interferences, preserve its corporate values, and committed to accountability and transparency for nation building.
We hope that we'll be able to support NAET to do the right thing. We hope that we'll be able to give back according to what the expectations are for all of us.
The board members are also expected to give optimal performance to the sector. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
And the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has again assured the Northeast Governors Forum that it is doing everything possible to restore power supply to the region by May 27 this year. TCN states that work is advancing to rebuild the 4 towers destroyed by vandals and energize the transmission line to ensure power supply is restored to all the affected areas. To expedite work, the TCN says it is insisting that the contractor put in place on-site machines that will help increase the fabrication processes of tower members as the construction of the 4 vandalized towers are nearing completion. TCN appeals for more patience from the people of the Northeast as efforts are on to meet the deadline of May 27th. The National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, is championing the cause of Nigeria leveraging blockchain technology to develop critical sectors of the economy with a view to maximizing its full potentials. Director General of NITDA, Kashifu Abdullahi, in a message made this known at the co-creation workshop for the implementation of the National Blockchain Policy. ICT correspondent Olajide Bello reports.
As Nigeria charts its course in the digital age, blockchain policy emerges as a linchpin for progress and prosperity and pivotal for Nigeria's economic future. Blockchain technology holds immense potential to revolutionize various sectors from finance to supply chain management. However, to harness its benefits fully, the need to enact a clear and comprehensive policy becomes imperative. This gathering, therefore, by experts is to set the ball in motion.
We have this national blockchain policy that the government started during the last administration. So it's a policy which is meant to deepen the use of this technology. That's from development of the technology itself indigenously and also adoption, because it's a technology that has a lot of potential for growth in almost all the sectors of our economy.
This will be an opportunity for them to review the implementation plan and validate it, because realities has changed from then as into now. And again, because we've injected new members with fresh ideas, we think it's going to be a very good opportunity for the implementation plan, to be reviewed.
As Nigeria stands at a crossroads with the right regulations, positioning the nation as a leader in blockchain innovation, attracting investment and fostering job creation is necessary.
This robust plan will serve as a key to unlocking the immense potential of blockchain technology, propelling it to drive innovation across diverse sectors, enhance transparency and efficiency in government processes, and empower Nigerians through secure and inclusive digital solutions.
NITDA says the need to tread carefully to mitigate risks such as fraud and money laundering through proper oversight and compliance mechanisms is paramount. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
The Nigerian Communications Commission subsidiary regulations are the bedrock of a vibrant and inclusive telecom sector, driving innovation, protecting consumers, and propelling Nigeria towards a digitally empowered future. Those were the words of the Executive Vice Chairman NCC Aminu Maida at the public inquiry on 3 subsidiary regulations of the Commission in Abuja. Again, ICT correspondent Olajide Bello reports.
Established under the Nigerian Communications Act of 2003, The NCC is tasked with fostering healthy competition, protecting consumers, and promoting investment in the telecom sector. To achieve these objectives, the Commission issues subsidiary regulations which provide detailed guidelines for telecom operators and stakeholders. In a world where communication is the cornerstone of progress, these regulations serve as compass guiding the industry towards innovation, fairness, and efficiency.
This framework ensures fairness, transparency, and certainty in disconnection procedures, protecting operators from unjustified disconnection and ensuring contractual obligations are honored. This review will obviously bolster investors' confidence and promote healthy competition.
Among the key regulations are those governing licensing and spectrum management. These regulations define the process for obtaining licenses to operate telecom services and allocate spectrum resources to ensure optimal utilization and minimize interference.
The public inquiry we are conducting today is a testament to the Commission's dedication to transparency and inclusivity, ensuring that the voices of all stakeholders are heard and considered. These regulatory instruments have played a vital role in shaping our communications landscape, and it is essential that we revisit and refine them to address emerging challenges, trends, and opportunities.
Consumer protection is paramount in the NCC's agenda through regulations on quality service, tariff transparency, and dispute resolution mechanisms, as the Commission ensures that consumers receive reliable avenues for redress in case of grievances. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Following the recent unrest at Banex Plaza in Wuse, Abuja on Saturday, the 18th of May 2024, where some unarmed military personnel were attacked, the Nigerian Army has convened a meeting with the management of Banex Plaza. Director, Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwachukwu notes that the essence of the meeting was to identify and apprehend the perpetrators of this act by temporarily shutting down activities in the plaza to ensure that the hoodlums who have been using the Banex neighborhood as a sanctuary to pose a security threat to the Federal Capital Territory were apprehended. The extensive investigation to be conducted at the scene will also determine both the immediate and underlying causes of the incident. The statement, however, enjoins members of the public to always follow established channels through which grievances or misconduct by personnel could be reported to the appropriate authorities. Christian politicians on the platform of the governing All Progressives Congress have disregarded allegations of terrorism, financing, and anti-party against the member representing Kaura Nomada and Birnin Magaji Federal Constituency. The political organization says Jaji's achievements remained intimidating to political failures and saboteurs within and outside APC, and asked them to emulate his virtues of charity, service to humanity, and long history of communal development, which has earned him scores of supporters ahead of future contests. The religious group advised Zamfara state indigents to give the member the desired support to continue with the humanitarian service and other interventions packaged to his constituents.
Nigerians should know that such a man cannot finance terrorism.
Nigerians can expect a more professional private security guards industry in the coming months as the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, moves to reform the sector. Victor Azu was at the stakeholders' engagement with the minister and now reports.
It's the stakeholders' consultative meeting on the Nigeria private security guards industry, convened by the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, flanked by heads of agencies in the Ministry of Interior. The minister is meeting with private security practitioners in an effort to standardize the industry and ensure safety of Nigerians.
We think there should be domestic license, there should be industrial license, and there should be a combo license, depending on the capacity of the companies in terms of technical know-how, in terms of their capital, and in terms of their reach, national spread. And of course, ensure that once somebody comes in as a guide, we have his biometrics, we have his data. In case if there's any issue, we can track you and make sure that justice catches up with you.
Tunji Ojo's work is already half done. He has the buy-in of licensed practitioners who are already looking to play a bigger role in the national security architecture.
This is an industry that employs over 5 million Nigerians in both formal and informal sector. And if our services are optimized, standardized, I believe it will greatly help in reducing the burden on the state actors.
An 8-member committee headed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Dr. Aishatun Dayako, has now been set up to aggregate recommendations leading to a policy that will further strengthen the private security industry. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
The Jigawa State Committee charged with the responsibility of repositioning Hizbah, the Islamic policing guards, to enforce the observance of Sharia laws and guard against societal vices, has submitted its report to Governor Omar Namadi. Mohammed Musa Askira reports that the governor promised to implement the recommendations in that report. Other reports will be coming as subsequent bulletins. And moving on, religious and traditional rulers within the West African sub-region are advancing advocacy against gender-based violence within the region. Elizabeth Amori reports that this was at a high-level gender-based violence summit by the United Nations Women and Forward Foundation, where the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeye Eneto Ogunwusi, recommended protection of the rights of women and girls by families and governments, as well as full inclusion in policy making.
Data by the United Nations reveal that about 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced sexual and other forms of violence and are more likely to be killed by their intimate partners. As a pervasive global menace, Africa is not letting her guard down, and this forum seeks to leverage regional mechanisms to tackle gender-based violence being experienced by women and girls.
Genital mutilation, it's a very, very dehumanizing thing, but thank God Almighty, the advocacy is getting wider.
We are ready to give our best to the country, nothing more. We are ready to always talk about peace and stability based on justice and fair play and equity.
Let us stand in solidarity with survivors, advocate for their rights.
Harmful cultural practices, conflicts and poverty, they say hamper the progress of women.
The work I do is to protect the rights and save my women and children as much as I can.
Gender-based violence is not just against our women and girls. It's against all of us. It's against our economic growth. It's against our stability.
Together, we can achieve our shared vision of a world free from violence, bias, prejudice, and discrimination.
They recommend a coordinated synergy with law enforcement agencies to arrest and prosecute offenders, and the commitment of governments at all levels to end the scourge. Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
And as the 2024 Hajj in Makkah draws closer, more than 11,000 Nigerian pilgrims have been airlifted to the Holy Land. Correspondent Jamil Ibrahim, who is now in Medina, reports that while most of the pilgrims have embarked on the visitation of the Islamic historical places in the Holy Land, a few others already left for Makkah.
Medina, the second holiest city in Islam after Mecca, is the first destination for most millions of Muslims around the world who visit the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the annual Hajj. As the 2024 Hajj draws closer, the holy city has continued to witness the influx of pilgrims from across the globe, among of whom are more than 11,000 Nigerians who have been so far airlifted to the Holy Land. Pilgrims have embarked on the spiritual visitation to the noble mosque, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which was built by the Prophet himself 1 year after his migration to the city from Mecca. They also visit the Prophet's grave and the graves of his two closest companions, Abu Bakr and Umar, peace be upon them, which are integrated into the mosque proper.
This is Mountain of Uhud, one of the major Islamic historical sites being visited by the intending pilgrims from across the globe. It was the place where the Battle of Uhud took place, 3rd year after the migration of the Holy Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Medina, where 70 companions of the prophets were killed. And this is the cemetery where they were all buried.
Other major Islamic historical places that attract the pilgrims are the popular Mosque of Quba and the historic cemetery of Medina, popularly known as Baqiyah, which contains the graves of the many of the Prophet's companions and his wives.
We thank Allah that gives us opportunity to put our foot on the way Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to put his foot. We pray the way he played the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam pray. We do our namaz there and make dua, and we believe that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will accept our dua.
And they explain every bit of the stages we are getting to. Every stages we pray and we do the necessary things.
Meanwhile, the normal duration of the Nigerian pilgrims' stay in Medina has been reduced from 8 to 4 days by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, as some of the contingent have already moved to the city of Mecca. This, according to the NACON, is done to reduce the rising costs associated with this year's Hajj operation. From the holy city of Medina in Saudi Arabia, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
The immediate past Nigeria's ambassador to Czech Republic, Kevin Peter, has commended the foreign policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu geared towards attracting foreign investments. Kevin Peters was speaking on the account of 1 year in office of President Tinubu. Yusuf Jika reports.
Since his inauguration as President of Nigeria about a year ago, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has taken steps to strengthen the bilateral relations between Nigeria and other countries of the world through foreign trips and other engagements. Some of the measures are seen to be making impact with more foreign investments considering the conducive environment. This, the immediate past Nigerian ambassador to Czech Republic, Kevin Peter, commended the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for redeeming the image of the country before the eyes of the world, which is now winning investors.
Give confidence to foreign countries that Nigeria is a place where investors will be safe. Their investment will be safe. He has gone to so many countries, and from all indication, that confidence has been restored.
In a reception to mark his successful tenure as ambassador of Nigeria to Czech Republic, Kevin Peter described Nigeria as a nation with great potentials which needs to be properly harnessed for socio-economic development.
Looking at what the president is doing, you know that Nigeria's economy is going to bounce back, and all these hardships are going to be just forgotten.
In Yola, Yusuf Jika, NTA News.
Huge crowds at the Iran capital for president's funeral. Let's now join Abu Salami Jibril for this and more on the foreign scene.
The Egyptian Health Ministry says at least 10 female farm workers, 9 of them children, died on Tuesday when a minibus plunged off a river ferry and into the Nile northwest of Cairo. Reporting the accident, the state's flagship Al Ahram newspaper says the driver, who had released the handbrake, was arrested while trying to flee. 2 of the victims, all of whom worked on an export-oriented fruit farm, were 13 years old. The rest were 16 and younger, except for one victim who was identified as a 40-year-old woman. The vehicle sank at the village of Abu Ghalib, some 50 kilometers northwest of the capital. Villagers used small wooden boats to row out and help search and rescue workers look for survivors as relatives waited anxiously on the banks of the narrow stretch of the Nile. A crane was finally able to lift the minibus from the water after rescuers and locals had swum out to extract victims from the windows of the submerged vehicle. At least 1.3 million children are engaged in some form of child labor in the Arab world's most populous nation, official figures show. In Iran, huge crowds thronged the streets of the capital Tehran for the funeral procession of President Ibrahim Raisi and his entourage, who died in a helicopter crash. In the city center, mourners clutching portraits of Raisi gathered in and around the University of Tehran, where Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei led the prayers. Flanked by top officials, Khamenei said prayers over the coffins of the dead, who also included Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian. The leader of Palestinian militant group Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, joined the procession as the deputy leader of Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Recall that Raisi's helicopter crashed into a fog-shrouded mountainside in northwestern Iran on Sunday as he headed back to the city of Tabriz after attending a ceremony on the border with Azerbaijan.
Sports is up next.
Nottingham Forest have confirmed that they activated a one-year extension in Olaino's contract. The 27-year-old has enjoyed a positive first season at the City Ground, having joined the club on a free transfer last summer. The Niger international made 22 appearances for Forest in the 2023-2024 season. Aino scored his first goal for the club in a 2-0 home win over Aston Villa, whilst also reaching the final of the Africa Cup of Nations with Nigeria, as well as being named in the team of the tournament. In England, Chelsea manager Mauricio Pochettino has left the club by mutual consent after one season at Stamford Bridge. Pochettino took charge of Chelsea on 1st July, signing a 2-year contract with the option of a further 12 months. The Argentine was under pressure after an underwhelming first half of the season, but a run of 5 successive wins to end the season ensured they finished 6th in the Premier League. Chelsea will now search for a successor and have expressed recent interest in Ipswich manager Kieran McKenna, Sporting's Ruben Amorim and Burnley's Vincent Kompany. In the Europa League, Bundesliga champions Bayer Leverkusen look to take the penultimate step towards an invisible treble as they face Atalanta in the Europa League final. Xabi Alonso's side went unbeaten on their way to winning the Bundesliga title in sensational fashion, 17 points clear of Stuttgart in second, and it is now 51 matches without defeat in any competition this season. Atalanta, meanwhile, reached their first ever European final by beating Marseille in the semi-finals, having knocked out Liverpool earlier in the knockout stages. The match will take place at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin.
And that concludes the news at 10 on NTN News 24. Thanks for watching. I am Mina Daniels.